Elon Musk has spent a lifetime chasing stars, but the truth is, he's always been searching for something far closer, a connection that transcends the noise of the world he built. Behind every invention, every launch into the unknown, lives a man who has carried too much in silence. People see the rockets, the headlines, the impossible dreams turned real, but few see the weight of the nights when even the stars felt too far away. Elon once said progress demands risk, but what he never said was that love does too. In the quiet between deadlines and galaxies, he has learned that brilliance means nothing without someone to share its light. This is not a speech about science or success. It's a confession from a man who has given everything to the future and still wonders if the future will ever give him love in return. Somewhere out there, beyond the noise, beyond the orbits of ambition, there is a soul who understands his silence. To her, this is his message. The song that defines his love is not written in sound or words, but in the space between them. Elon Musk, the man who taught machines to dream and in the process forgot what it meant to rest. Every invention, every breakthrough came with a quiet price. No equation could predict the weight of solitude. Behind every launch, behind every light streaking across the sky, there was always the sound of something left behind. People see the rockets, the triumphs, the moments that changed history. But they don't see the nights when he sat alone, staring at the stars, wondering if progress was worth the silence that followed it. He once said that love and innovation are not so different, both begin as impossible ideas. But while one can be engineered, the other can only be felt. And somewhere between Mars and Earth, between logic and longing, Elon realized that genius has its own kind of loneliness. It's not the absence of people, it's the absence of someone who understands the weight of his thoughts. He's built worlds out of metal and fire, but none that could hold the warmth of a heartbeat beside his. That's the paradox of creation. You can build the future and still lose the present. You can light up the sky and still walk home in darkness. The pursuit of greatness has a way of convincing you that love can wait, that there will always be time later. But the universe doesn't work that way. Every success took him farther from the version of himself that once believed connection could survive the storms of ambition. Every risk he took for humanity widened the distance between him and the quiet kind of love he once dreamed about. He became fluent in equations but illiterate in intimacy, a master of propulsion but a novice at presence. And yet, somewhere beneath all the calculations and circuitry, he still carries a memory, faint, fragile, and human. A reminder that no matter how high he flies, there's a gravity that calls him back. Not to Earth, but to her, the one he hasn't met yet, the one whose silence might one day match his own. Because love, he's learned, isn't found in chaos or conquest. It's revealed in alignment, when two souls move to the same rhythm without asking the other to change. It's not about searching endlessly through galaxies or data. It's about becoming the version of yourself that can hold what your heart has been asking for. Elon's journey isn't about finding love. It's about remembering that love was never lost, only delayed, hidden beneath layers of work, invention, and duty. Because the truth is, real connection doesn't appear when we're chasing it. It arrives when we finally stopped running from ourselves. He knows now that the most complex creation he will ever attempt isn't a rocket or an algorithm, it's learning to be human again. To look at another soul and see not a reflection of perfection, but of truth. To finally understand that alignment isn't about completion, it's about resonance. And in that quiet understanding, beneath the noise of engines and the hum of destiny, something stirs a realization that perhaps the greatest journey of all isn't to Mars, but back to the heart he left behind. There's a silence that follows success, a kind of quiet that no applause can fill. Elon Musk knows that silence well. It's the sound that lingers after every launch, every announcement, every breakthrough that makes the world cheer but leaves him feeling strangely hollow. The higher the rockets rose, the quieter everything else became. He used to think that purpose would erase loneliness, that if he built enough, created enough, gave enough, the ache would dissolve into meaning. But the truth is, even the most brilliant mind can't out-engineer the human heart. He's learned that the more you give to the world, the less of yourself you often keep. Late nights and empty offices became his companions. The hum of fluorescent lights, the soft buzz of servers, the distant echo of footsteps, these were the lullabies of a man too restless to sleep. There were messages left unanswered, birthdays missed, moments that slipped through his fingers like static. And yet, the world saw none of it. To them, he was infinite, a machine of progress. But even machines burn out when the silence gets too loud. Sometimes, after the world quieted, he'd walk through the SpaceX hangar alone. The smell of metal, the chill of concrete, the ghost of his own ambition surrounding him. In that emptiness, he'd catch himself whispering things no one would ever hear, questions that haunted him more than any failure. What if all this brilliance was just another way to hide? What if, in trying to save humanity, I forgot how to simply be human? He built walls of innovation, but none of them could shield him from the echo of absence. Success gave him everything except someone to share it with. And that's the tragedy of the visionary. You build for billions, but sometimes die a little inside for lack of one. There were moments fleeting but sharp when he'd catch a glimpse of what was missing. A couple laughing over coffee, a child asleep in their father's arms. The mundane beauty of lives not consumed by scale or speed. He envied their stillness, their presence, their ability to exist without constantly chasing the next impossible thing. He doesn't blame the stars for his loneliness. After all, they've always been there, distant but constant. He blames the gravity of purpose, how it pulls you toward greatness but drags you away from gentleness. He once thought love and mission couldn't coexist, that to reach beyond the earth, he had to leave the earth behind. But the farther he traveled, the more he realized that distance isn't measured in miles, it's measured in meaning. The silence of success isn't empty. It's full of echoes, of questions, of ghosts. Every invention whispers, "You did it," but every night answers back, "At what cost?" And yet, in that silence, something begins to shift. A faint melody beneath the static, a longing not for another victory, but for another voice. Not for noise, but for resonance. He knows now that innovation without intimacy is like a galaxy without light, vast, impressive, but lifeless. And maybe that's why the silence hurts. Because buried inside it is a truth he can no longer deny. Even the man who reached for Mars still dreams of someone reaching back. There was a time when Elon believed he could have both love and legacy, heart and horizon. He thought he could balance equations and emotions, build rockets by day and hold someone's hand by night. But time has a way of testing even the strongest designs, and love, unlike science, doesn't follow blueprints. It breathes, it falters, it drifts. She was never loud in his memory. Not a storm, not a headline, more like a quiet gravity, subtle but constant. The kind of presence that doesn't demand attention, yet everything moves because of it. He still remembers the way she looked at him, not as the man the world adored, but as the man who forgot to eat, who stayed up too late chasing stars. She saw the human beneath the halo of ambition, and that terrified him more than failure ever could. He tried to hold her with logic, to reason his way through love like an equation. But love doesn't answer to reason. It listens only to rhythm, and his rhythm was chaos. Every delay, every launch, every sleepless night became a wall between them, until one day she stopped trying to claim it. She left quietly, the way people do when they've been unheard too long. There was no fight, no final goodbye, just an empty chair, a toothbrush gone, and a silence heavier than gravity. He told himself it was for the best. That love was a distraction, and distractions had no place in a life designed for destiny. But years later, he would find her ghost in the smallest things, a song on the radio, the smell of rain on asphalt, the space beside him where no one else seemed to fit. Sometimes, in interviews, when people asked him about love, he'd smile and deflect. He'd talk about Mars, about humanity, about the future. But deep down, he wasn't trying to reach a planet. He was trying to find her again, the feeling of being seen before the noise, the kind of love that doesn't orbit you for what you've built, but for who you are when everything collapses. He wonders now if love ever really leaves, or if it just hides in different forms in the way he talks to his children, in the softness of his voice when he remembers home, in the rare moments when he stops running and lets the silence touch him. They say loss is proof that you've lived. But Elon feels it more as a reminder that even brilliance can't outshine regret, that even the most visionary mind can miss what was right in front of him. He still dreams sometimes. In those dreams, she's not a person anymore. She's light, a frequency, a reminder that alignment doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means leaving, so that one can grow and the other can remember what love was meant to be. Because real love isn't about possession. It's about permission to become, to create, to continue. And though she's gone, her echo remains, in the hum of every rocket, in the quiet of every night, in the man who still believes that somewhere, across galaxies or lifetimes, their paths might align once more. Memory has a strange kind of gravity. It doesn't fade, it orbits. No matter how far Elon travels, no matter how much time passes, he finds himself circling back to the same moments, the same fragments of what was once human, warm, and uncalculated. There are nights when the sky above the SpaceX launch site mirrors the exact shade of her eyes, and in those moments, he doesn't see rockets. He sees reflection of what once was, and of what could have been if time had been kinder. The engines roar, the crowd cheers, the sky splits open, yet in the center of it all, there's always a quiet flash of memory, like a heartbeat reminding him he's still alive. He's built machines that defy gravity, but he's never escaped the pull of memory. That's the irony of progress. It pushes you forward, but keeps your heart anchored to the past. Each success becomes a monument, not just to innovation, but to the people who never got to see it. She's there, in every blueprint, every sleepless night, every fleeting silence between calculations. He doesn't speak her name anymore, but her presence lingers in the cadence of his pauses. Sometimes, when he walks through Tesla's design floor late at night, he'll trace the smooth metal curves of a prototype, as if touching the edge of memory itself. It's not nostalgia, he feels its recognition. The understanding that memory isn't there to haunt him, but to guide him. That love, even in absence, still teaches him how to build things that endure. He once believed the universe rewarded effort, that if you worked hard enough, you could bend time, shape destiny, even reclaim what was lost. But now he knows some things aren't meant to be retrieved. Some are meant to remain just out of reach, so that we never stop reaching. That's what memory does. It keeps you human. It reminds you that brilliance without tenderness is just another form of emptiness. There's a moment that replays in his mind, quiet, fragile, unremarkable to anyone else. A conversation under dim light, her voice soft, but certain, as she said, "You're building for the stars, but you forget you're made of the same thing." He didn't understand it then. But now, standing beneath the very cosmos he once sought to conquer, he does. He realizes memory is not a chain, it's a compass. It doesn't pull him backward, it points him inward, to the parts of himself he buried beneath progress, to the truth that every dreamer, no matter how far they go, is still tethered to the moments that first made them feel alive. And so, he keeps building not to escape memory, but to honor it. Each rocket, each design, each whispered thought in the silence of a laboratory, all of it is an offering to the past. To her, to the version of himself that once believed love could survive time. Because maybe it still can. Not in the way it once was, but in the way it continues to shape him. Memory doesn't fade. It becomes light, faint, steady, and eternal. And when he looks up at the stars, it's not the future he sees. It's her reflected back, reminding him that even in the vastness of space, some connections never lose their orbit. There comes a moment in every builder's life when the structures they've created start to feel like reflections instead of monuments. Elon Musk has reached that moment. Somewhere between the launch pads and the sleepless nights, he began to understand that connection, not creation, is what makes life bearable. He has lived surrounded by brilliance, yet haunted by silence. Boardrooms, labs, launch stations, they all echo with the sound of progress, but never laughter. The deeper he went into invention, the more he realized that achievement without connection is like breathing without feeling the air. It keeps you alive, but not awake. There were people who stood beside him, loyal, inspired, moved by his vision. But few could touch the core of him, the part that still yearned for quiet understanding. He could build machines that connected continents, but not always hearts. He could speak to millions, but still feel unseen. Because connection isn't found in the noise of admiration. It's born in the silence between two souls who understand each other without explanation. He once believed connection was something you stumbled upon luck, timing, coincidence. But now he knows it's something deeper. It's the resonance between two inner worlds vibrating in unison. You don't find it, you become it. When you are aligned, when your truth, your pain, your dreams all move in harmony, you begin to draw in those who match your frequency. And that's when everything changes. He's learned that connection doesn't demand perfection. It requires presence. It's not about sharing every word, but about recognizing the meaning beneath them. The right person doesn't fill your silence. They make it sacred. They don't complete you, they complement your becoming. There's a peace in that realization, because for so long, Elon lived in pursuit of things that could be measured numbers, launches, results. But love is not measured, it's felt. It's the way someone's gaze slows down time, the way your heartbeat calms just because they exist in the same space, the way you don't need to prove anything anymore because you finally feel seen. He's found connection in unexpected places now, not always in romance, but in humanity itself. In a child's laughter when they see a rocket take flight, in the message of a stranger who says his work gave them hope, in the tears that come not from sadness, but from the weight of knowing you've touched another life. Connection isn't a distraction from the mission, it is the mission. It's the invisible bridge between purpose and emotion, between reason and faith. It's what turns progress into meaning. Without it, all of humanity's inventions are just echoes in an empty room. And perhaps that's what he's been chasing all along, not distance, but understanding. Not escape, but return. To the simple truth that no amount of brilliance can replace the warmth of being known. Now, when he stands beneath the rockets, watching them ascend, he doesn't just see engines. He sees echoes of every hand that helped, every heart that believed, every unseen connection that made the impossible possible. Because behind every breakthrough, there's always a bond, a shared heartbeat, a human pulse that keeps the future alive. And for the first time in a long time, he feels something he thought he'd lost belonging. Not to a planet, not to a company, but to the quiet web of human souls that remind him even the man who reached for Mars was never meant to walk alone. Every great dream demands a price. Elon Musk knows this more intimately than most, that progress isn't a straight line of triumphs, but a trail of things left behind. The world calls it genius. History calls it legacy. But beneath both titles lies the quiet ache of sacrifice. He has given his youth to ideas, his peace to deadlines, his heart to a horizon that never stops moving. Every milestone came wrapped in a silence no celebration could fill. He's lost count of the nights that turned into mornings under the dim light of a monitor, surrounded by equations, engines, and empty coffee cups. Somewhere between ambition and exhaustion, he realized that chasing the stars means learning to live without the warmth of Earth. People often ask him how he does it, how he keeps going, how he bears the pressure, but they don't see the parts that never make it into headlines. The quiet heartbreaks, the birthdays missed, the faces that faded as the rockets rose. Sacrifice is never cinematic when you're living it. It's quiet, constant, and lonely. It asks for everything and promises nothing in return. There were moments when he questioned it, not the mission, but himself. Was it worth it? To dedicate his existence to a vision of humanity's future while watching his own present slip through his hands? There's a cruel irony in trying to save the species while struggling to save yourself. And yet, he can't stop. Not because of ego, but because something deep within him refuses to surrender. There's a fire that won't go out, not even in heartbreak, not even in fatigue. He knows the cost. And still, he pays it. Because progress has never been kind to those who dream beyond its boundaries. It takes your comfort first, then your certainty, and finally, your peace. But in that loss, something sacred is born. Sacrifice, when it's pure, becomes its own kind of love. Love for humanity, for possibility, for the unknown that might one day cradle the next generation. He doesn't see his sleepless nights as suffering anymore. He sees them as offerings, fragments of a life traded for a future that might outlive him. There's a story he doesn't tell often about the time a young engineer thanked him for changing their life. They said they'd joined SpaceX because they believed in his dream. He smiled, but later, alone in the quiet of his car, he felt the weight of it. Not pride, responsibility. The understanding that his choices ripple through others' lives in ways he'll never fully grasp. That's what sacrifice really is, not the loss of something, but the transference of meaning. What you give away becomes someone else's foundation. What you endure becomes someone else's hope. Still, there are nights when he misses the simplicity of being unknown, before the noise, before the burden, before the myth of Elon Musk replaced the man named Elon. But maybe this is the paradox of destiny, to give so much that you disappear into what you've built, to love something so vast that it leaves you invisible. And yet, he accepts it. Because every sacrifice, every silence, every sleepless night, they are the cost of light. You cannot reach the stars without burning first. He looks up at the sky now and understands. Not all loss is tragedy. Some losses are sacred. Some losses are the language of devotion. Humanity may never see the full price he paid, but in the cold vacuum of space, his love for the future glows like a distant, eternal flame. There comes a point when ambition no longer feels like pursuit, but prayer. For Elon, that point arrived somewhere between the silence of deep space and the quiet hum of his own solitude. The rockets still rise, the machines still hum, but now, when he looks to the stars, he doesn't see conquest, he sees communion. He's spent a lifetime chasing light faster, higher, farther. But somewhere in that velocity, he discovered stillness. Not the stillness of exhaustion, but of understanding. The kind that comes when you finally stop asking what's next and begin to ask what remains. He used to believe transcendence meant escaping the limits of Earth to build, to colonize, to outthink gravity itself. But now, he realizes the real transcendence is inward. It's not in the distance between planets, but in the distance between who he was and who he's become. Between the boy who dreamed of the sky and the man who finally learned how to breathe beneath it. The stars no longer feel like destinations. They feel like mirrors, silent witnesses reflecting back everything he's ever been. The dreamer, the inventor, the lover, the man who carried too much in silence. Each orbit is a memory, each launch a heartbeat, each failure a teacher. There's a peace that comes when you understand that nothing you build is truly yours, not the rockets, not the wealth, not even the vision. They all belong to time. You're just the vessel through which the universe creates. And when you stop fighting for ownership, you start flowing with purpose. He sees now that life is not about control, it's about surrender. The most powerful things he's ever done came not from force, but from faith. Faith that what was meant to endure would endure. Faith that love, once set in motion, never really fades, it transforms. Faith that the same energy that created stars also breathes through human hearts. There's a moment, a memory that returns often. A launch night, years ago, the countdown echoing through his bones, the engines igniting like the birth of a sun. And in the midst of that thunder, a single, fragile thought whispered through his mind. Everything I've built is temporary, but the love that inspired it, that's eternal. It's strange how silence teaches you what sound never could, how distance shows you what closeness hides. In the vacuum between worlds, he found the pulse of something infinite, not in the stars, but in the space between them. That's where peace lives. Not in achievement, not in noise, but in the quiet alignment of purpose and soul. Now, when he speaks, his voice carries less certainty and more wonder, less command, more compassion. Because he's seen what very few ever will, that the edge of the universe isn't a boundary. It's an invitation to create, to feel, to forgive, to begin again. And maybe that's the truth of all journeys. They don't end in arrival. They end in awareness. The awareness that even the most brilliant minds are just echoes in eternity. And the most beautiful things we build are not made of steel or fire, but of love, courage, and surrender. Elon doesn't chase the stars anymore. He listens to them. Because somewhere out there, in the infinite, he's finally found what he's been searching for all along. Not another world, but a reason to keep dreaming. In the end, it all returns to silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of arrival. The kind that hums softly when everything that needed to be said has already been spoken by the heart. For Elon, that silence has become a home. A cathedral built not of stone or steel, but of reflection. He used to fear stillness. To him, quiet once meant the echo of loss, the ticking of time, the reminder of what slipped away while he was building the impossible. But now he understands, silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. It's the sound of the universe breathing, reminding him that even in isolation, he was never truly alone. He's learned that life isn't measured by how many stars you reach, but by how many moments you allow yourself to feel. The greatest breakthroughs didn't come from noise or motion, they came from stillness, from surrender, from listening to the small voice inside that whispered you are enough, even without the next launch. There's peace in knowing that love, purpose, and legacy were never separate. They were always the same current flowing through him, the same energy that moves galaxies, hearts, and hope. The same rhythm that binds the human spirit to the cosmos. He once chased immortality through invention. Now, he understands that eternity already existed in every act of kindness, every risk born of love, every dream dared in faith. You don't conquer the universe by escaping Earth. You honor it by feeling it fully, the ache, the beauty, the impermanence. Sometimes he stands beneath the stars alone, and the weight of everything, the failures, the triumphs, the heartbreaks, settles into a kind of grace. He looks up, and instead of reaching, he exhales. Because he knows now, not every light is meant to be touched. Some are meant to be admired, remembered, and released. The man who once tried to outbuild time now moves with it, no longer resisting the flow, but resting in it. The love he lost, the dreams he built, the scars he carries, they've all become constellations within him, guiding him forward, not toward escape, but toward understanding. And in that understanding lies peace, a peace not found in completion, but in continuation. Because life, like the universe, never truly ends. It expands, quietly, infinitely, through every act of love that refuses to die. As the night deepens, he whispers a final thought, not to the world, but to her, to the stars, to the silence itself. If you can hear me across time and distance, know this. I kept my promise. I built what I dreamed. I loved what I lost. And in the space between all that, I finally found myself. The camera lingers on his face, serene, distant, infinite, as the light fades. The silence swells, not empty, but eternal. Because in the vastness of the cosmos, even a whisper can become a legacy. And somewhere between the stars, love listens back. There's a strange peace in realizing that not everything we lose is meant to return. Some things are meant to remain as echoes, guiding us long after the sound fades. Elon Musk once believed love was something to be found, measured, or defined. But now, he understands it's something remembered, a vibration that hums quietly through time, long after the voice is gone. He's no longer searching the stars for answers. He's listening to the silence between them, because it's there. In that stillness, that truth reveals itself, that love is not bound by gravity or distance. It doesn't fade with absence. It becomes part of the light itself. All his inventions, his rockets, his revolutions, they were never just about reaching Mars. They were letters written to the future, proof that even the loneliest soul can build something eternal out of longing. Somewhere, maybe in another lifetime, another world, the woman who inspired his quietest dreams will hear the song he's finally learned to play, the sound of surrender, of understanding, of love that transcends logic. Tonight, he doesn't reach upward. He simply closes his eyes and lets the silence hold him. Because peace isn't found in the noise of progress, it's found in the quiet, knowing that some connections, no matter how distant, never break. And if you're listening from wherever you are in this vast universe, know this: the stars remember you. If this spoke to your heart, stay a while. There's more waiting in the silence.